Hello everybody. This video is introducing NAEP, the National Assessment for Educational Progress, and the data tools that are available to you to analyze the very large database that is maintained. I always have trouble getting to this. The way I'm going to tell you to do it today is to go into Google, type NAEP data tools, that's NAEP, and I'm looking for the Data Explorer tool. And I come here, it's not really what I'm looking for, but if I click, Data Tools, let's start over. Hello everybody. This activity is about exploring NAEP, the National Assessment for Educational Progress, and the long-term data that is available for you to look at. All right. This is the NAEP website. I got here by typing in Google NAEP data tools, and it didn't really take me exactly where I wanted to go, but close enough because there's a link to data tools. That's what you're looking for. Let me just tell you a little bit about NAEP first. It's a test that the National Center for Educational Statistics has been given for 30 or more years, and the data is available by state and by all kinds of different breakdown of groups. It has several advantages over tests such as the PSSA and the Keystone. One of the advantages is that there's longitudinal data, and the data is available on a public website, and the tool for exploring it is strong. Another advantage is it's not connected to high stakes, so therefore there isn't so much gaming of the system. A third advantage is it's considered a little bit higher level than some of the state tests. And states, I think at some point in time, were expected to benchmark their tests to NAEP so that they wouldn't be so far out of the range and trying to game No Child Left Behind by making easy tests. So it's a more consistent test that's been given over time that's high quality with good data and not so much played with. Now, you may wonder who takes the NAEP, and it's basically a representative sample of students. And for example, my son was one of the people that they randomly selected. What happens is they send a letter home to the parents requesting permission for the child to take the NAEP. Say yes or no. If you say yes, the child takes the NAEP. And I do believe through this method they are able to, and other things they do, it's pretty high level group, get a representative sample, right? But it's not all children that take it. It's a representative sample across the nation. All right, so the data tool, and you can actually look at high school transcript information and other studies here too, but I'm gonna ask you to look at the long-term trend tool, and you have to agree to something. Hope I didn't agree to anything terrible. And you can explore mathematics or reading, and I want you to explore both. I'm gonna take a look here at mathematics. And it's been tested at these 3 age levels over a number of years. I always start with middle school. It seems interesting to me. And I first select all the years. And then I can select variables. There's all kinds of variables I can select. Not all the variables have been collected for all the years. So depending on what you select, you may get less number of years. There's school factors, community factors. And but let's just go with all students here, and I guess I'll go with all years. Edit reports. Now, I can select the statistics that I want to present. You're limited to only 2 statistics at a time, and that's probably to keep the complexity of the information reasonable, and you'll see it's a lot. So I will generally select average scale scores and standard deviations, but I might try these others as well, and I want you to try them for sure. But standard deviations, average scale scores, that's the basics. And I'm going to click Done and Build Report. And you see here, actually the information I got here is fairly simple because I didn't select subgroups. But you can see the years here, the average scale scores, what's been happening, and the standard deviation. So here's the directions, and these are also in the checklist, but I want to do a little more explaining here. All right, first, I want you to explore the data. Just do all kinds of tests. It's really interesting data, and there might be some surprises in there for you. And when you're exploring, I want you to do it for two purposes. First, to get used to the tool and the different kinds of data that are available and the different kinds of statistics. All right. The second purpose, though, is I want you to get a sense of the data. In number two, I'm going to ask you to write some questions that you don't know the answers to, but I want you to have a sense of what the answers might be before you ask them so that you're asking good questions. All right, second, I want you to develop a couple questions. They should be interesting questions. Questions that potentially have a surprise that you don't know the answer to, and that would be meaningful if you found the answer was whatever it is, that might have a meaningful answer. And I want the questions to be precise. So that means name the variables, name the statistics, name the years. So something like long-term reading achievement for 13-year-olds in mathematics in 2004 compared to blah, blah, blah. It's precise, right? I want you to make sure you include standard deviation in your question. All right, obviously then run the stats in the NAEP tool. Number four, present your findings in D2L. State whether or not the data that you found gives a yes or no answer to your question. Present whatever you need to present to demonstrate that. But also I want you to try to explain the meaning behind the data that you find. So there's a difference between just answering the question, what are the results, and do they say yes or no to the question, and explaining the meaning of the data. So I want you to do your best job explaining the meaning of the data, especially standard deviation, because that's part of what we're studying here. All right, and then finally I want you to respond to a peer on D2L. Find somebody who's come up with something interesting, surprising, and I want you to respond to them. And maybe they're going to find, I'm making this up totally, that 8th grade math achievement has gone down significantly for African American students between whatever years. So you might, I want you to try to respond to that by finding some data that would kind of go in the other direction. So maybe you'll do a different year comparison or some different subgroup comparison that would maybe give a different interpretation of the data set as a whole. Now, as you do this, you're no longer necessarily answering precisely the question, but giving a little bit more depth to the possible analysis of what are the long-term trends.